China, a country the size of Europe, with every kind of landscape. Every kind of habitat, every kind of climate, and where animals of many different types rare, exquisite, and endangered live in unique ecosystems, in remote isolation, and alongside people. But today, both these habitats and the extraordinary species who live within them are increasingly faced with challenges. As people race to find solutions, to preserve China's wild beauty. The city is an ever-evolving ecosystem. Made by man to meet our every need. And nowhere on our planet has such rapid and widespread urban development ever been seen as here and now in China. Millions of people vie for a piece of space in cities where infrastructure is shaped by tradition, landscape, and business. But we were not the original inhabitants of this land. While vertical cities grow ever taller and people live in more densely packed quarters, the natural world all around us, at ground level, and amongst the towering skyscrapers, is fighting for survival, searching for a plot, some space to live and breed. Full of dramas and relationships, adapting to their ever-changing habitat, evolving new collective behaviours, while living side by side with us in a relationship that is sometimes harmonious and at other times frustrating. Beijing, China's ancient and modern capital. This city's construction began more than 3,000 years ago. And it is home to some of China's most iconic landmarks. Here at the Temple of Heaven, emperors came for centuries to ask their gods for abundant harvests. These days, it's a favourite place for locals of all ages to stroll and take exercise. Every day from dawn to dusk, it's bustling with visitors. But what few of them realise is that just metres from where they are relaxing, intense dramas of life and survival are going on amongst the full-time residents of the park. The summer is coming to an end in the lush gardens of the Temple of Heaven. Some of the most energetic inhabitants are hoping that these auspicious grounds still promise ample food. This frisky Eurasian red squirrel is already preparing for the onset of Beijing's bitter winter, when temperatures can drop to -15 degrees Celsius. Unlike other small mammals, he won't hibernate during the cold spell, and so needs to begin to store up supplies now when food is plentiful. He also increases his food intake so as to put on weight for insulation. 80% of his waking life is spent foraging for food. The coat of this red squirrel varies in colour depending on the time of year and his location. The underside is always cream, but the remainder of this red squirrel's coat is in fact brown and black. The darker shade is camouflage, helping him blend in with the dark soil and tree trunks. He sheds his fur twice a year and is currently modelling his thinner summer coat. Success comes quickly. He's found a walnut. But before he can stash his bounty in a tree crevice known as a larder, an intruder disturbs him. Oblivious to the squirrel's mission, this child wants a closer look at the rodent. The squirrel, assuming the child wants his nut, hastily buries it. And runs for cover. The coast is clear, and he retrieves the nut. In just seconds, he unlocks it from the casing using his 4 sharp front teeth. His teeth will grow throughout his life to ensure that they don't wear down to nubs from gnawing on hard nuts. He hides his nut in pre-dug shallow pits called middens. He needs to cover it well with leaves, as a well-known thief is on the prowl, a magpie, and he likes nuts. But magpies have also been known to eat small mammals. So after concealing his walnut, the squirrel also makes himself scarce. Summer is the rainy season in Beijing. And a sudden downpour brings out a host of creatures. But heading out into the open can be a risky business. The common sparrow, a social bird with a strong sense of community. This scout has been sent to find food and sends word back. Petite in stature, the sparrow's strength lies in their numbers. But they are timid birds and quickly give up their hunting ground when they hear a hoopoe approach. so named because of its distinctive call. She is a solitary forager feeding on the ground, using her sharp beak to dig through the vegetation for the bugs that have come out in the rain. This iconic bird is depicted throughout history in art, adorning the walls of ancient Egyptian temples. Our fascination is perhaps sparked by her fan-like crest, which she raises when excited. Nestled in the long grass, a solitary hedgehog is awoken by the rain. And a certain scent. His attention quickly turns to dinner. He hoists himself out of his den, a small hollow he's dug in the grass. While his senses generally work best at night, some hedgehogs, like this male boar, adapt to early evening activity. With poor eyesight, he relies on smell and sound. He can even detect insects 7 centimeters underground. And he has caught a scent. As he meanders through the grass, sniffing for worms, he lets out a pig-like grunt, hence the hog in his name, Hedgehog. He's hot on the trail of a juicy earthworm. Because of their appetite for insects, hedgehogs are a powerful form of pest control, and gardeners throughout this city love them. With the worm in his mouth, the hedgehog now begins a curious ritual which still mystifies experts. It's called self-anointing. The hedgehog mixes the worm meat with saliva to form a scented broth. Then he pastes the froth over himself, licking as many of his 7,000 spines as he can reach. A pleasant perfume? A camouflage? Or a form of protection? The purpose of this act is entirely unknown and remains the hedgehog's secret. And with the self-anointing complete, he returns for second helpings. Whilst his wild instincts are still strong, this hedgehog has learned to adapt his behaviour to make the best of life amongst urbanites. And he's seen an opportunity. Sprinting off at a sprightly 5 kilometres an hour. As well as its wild creatures, the Temple of Heaven is also home to domesticated animals. Cats. It's getting towards the end of the day, and the cats are gathering, alerted by a familiar sound. It's their favourite time of the day.
Mimi!
Despite the fact the cats are living in this public park, free to roam its grounds and catch their own food, they also get regular meals.
不怕不怕，快回来从这儿吃吧，吃吧吃吧，它胆不小，真是，吃吧。
Though the food is intended for the cats, the hedgehog is also attracted by the smell. He bides his time. He must wait for night to fall and for the cats to leave. It's a long wait. He approaches cautiously through the long grass. And at last, patience is rewarded. He gets what he's been waiting for. Living amongst people and their domestic pets can have its advantages. And access to plentiful food scraps and cat food has not led this hedgehog to deviate from his nature. Research has found that despite having a year-round supply of food, the urban hedgehog still hibernates for 6 months of the year. The same amount of time as its rural relatives, whose prolonged sleep is timed with seasonal food shortages. But tonight, well fed, he now has the energy needed for the night, when he will trawl his territory, a 3-kilometre range, searching for females. (2,200 kilometres southwest of Beijing), the sprawling city of Guiyang stands out in sharp contrast to the karst scenery it jostles against. The limestone geology here is made up of the bones of sea creatures, formed 270 million years ago, when this region was the bottom of a warm tropical sea. And here, nature and man truly live side by side. In the wetlands not far from the city centre, it's mating season for the many birds who call this stretch of water their permanent home. These ample waterways are runoff from the Pearl River, and they've helped this city flourish, bringing humans and animals much needed fresh water. These wetlands are like nature's kidneys. They purify the water. They also protect the city from floods and the land from drought. And they cool air down when it's very hot in summer. An egret on the banks of the river patrols the water's edge. He chooses only to live where there is fresh water and clean air. Egrets have thrived in these lush surroundings for thousands of years. The crystal clear waters contain plenty of fish and amphibians for him. He snares them with a death blow delivered by a quick thrust of his sharp bill, and flies off with his catch, which he'll swallow whole. But this prize hunting ground is much coveted, and he's drawn unwelcome attention. Other egrets are trying to move into his territory, and some even challenge him for the spot. And soaring above the wetlands, Guiyang's karst peaks are also home to a population thriving off the rich supply of natural resources. The rhesus macaques. After humans, they are the world's most numerous and ecologically widespread primates. They're experts at surviving and multiplying. And they share much in common with their human cousins. Their behaviour is shaped by intense competition. Rhesus macaques live in complex societies. The troop is ruled by a single dominant male. You can see which is the alpha in this troop. He's the biggest and most aggressive of the males. He uses intimidation to get his way and secure for himself the safest sleeping spots, the best food, and access to the fertile females in the group. Intriguingly, his family of macaques is thriving in close quarters to another species of primate, humans. And he's figured out that there's no better place around to socialise with people than here, on the sacred Chenling mountain, a favourite tourist spot. It's Chinese New Year, and 100,000 Guiyang residents come in pilgrimage up this mountain. They gather firewood in the belief that this act will bring them good fortune and wealth. They offer thanks at the Zen Buddhist Hongfu temple. But the star attraction are the king monkey's macaques. And they know how to work the crowds. They prosper on this mountain because of man, choosing to live in close proximity to the city's tourists. And no day is more lucrative for the monkeys of Chenling Mountain than today. They hope to feast and enjoy the New Year celebrations as much as the next man. The troop leader, like all macaques, has specialised pouch-like cheeks to ensure that all the excess food he's given or grabs won't go to waste. Nowadays, the majority of his food intake comes from visitors. And there are concerns that through this coexistence, he and the troop he leads could be losing their foraging and gathering skills. Most feed the macaques responsibly: fruit, nuts. Their regular diet in the wild. And this urbanization of a species with regular access to a food supply has allowed this population of macaques to expand from 30 to over 600 inhabiting these mountains today. While they might have changed their feeding habits, at the end of the day, when the visitors descend the mountain for the bright lights of the city, the alpha male leads his troop away from the tourist spot and retreats back to his treetop canopy, back to his own society. Monkey intelligence has long been studied. But the abilities of some less exotic city-dwelling animals are now also gaining attention. It's winter in Beijing, and temperatures can drop to -15 degrees Celsius. As people retreat home, other species are flocking into the city. The squawk of carrion crows circling overhead drowns out the city sounds. With a 1-meter wingspan, they glide effortlessly over the skyline. Carrion crows are usually solitary, but they become sociable in winter when they congregate en masse in communal sleeping groups or roosts. "12,000 are expected to arrive in Beijing this year. Descending on this small patch of the city and roosting on just a couple of poplar trees. And experts at Cambridge University in the UK believe that the size of their roost is indication of their intelligence. Group living is a complicated business. For members to thrive or stand out from the crowd, they need to understand how to work alongside or manipulate their community. Highly social creatures like dolphins, chimps, and humans display great intelligence. And now the same can be said of carrion crows, who experts have found to have unusually large brains for their size. This is a spectacularly large roost. And it's not without its problems for the residents of Beijing, who have to tread a little carefully when walking beneath these trees in winter. The roost first moved into the city 20 years ago. Carrion crows are typically birds found in farm and grassland. But experts think they've moved into Beijing to take advantage of a phenomenon known to scientists as the urban heat island effect. There are 20 million people in Beijing, and the cars, air conditioners and other machines used in this developed city give off heat. And the very concrete and construction materials used to build the city absorb and retain more heat than the soil and vegetation in the countryside. It means the temperature in Beijing is on average 3 degrees higher than surrounding countryside. And it might explain why carrion crows find life in the city so appealing. Artificial light also helps the crows keep watch for their main predator, owls. They choose to perch on the very top of the tree or bare branches. These offer them a great vantage point. If they come under attack, they can alert the entire roost, with 3 or 4 warning cries in quick succession. And then they take to the skies. It's an icy winter's morning in Beijing. In a city park, many different kinds of birds are on the water. But one determined crow, with a loyal crew in tow, has headed straight for the ice. He is not trying to break through, but is resourceful and cleverly uses the hard surface of the ice to sharpen his beak. But these busy crows need to take care. There are predators in the park too. With a now razor-sharp beak, this opportunistic scavenger has a new lease of confidence and has seen a kestrel enjoying a mouse. And he wants it too. Communicating his plan to his companions, who rally around to support him in the quest. They're versatile and will eat anything they can find, plant or meat, and they're seemingly fearless. Utilising the strong network forged in the roost, the lead scavenger instructs the others to take on the bird of prey. 4 against 1. The kestrel clings on to the mouse, clasping it tightly in his talons. And the group of crows eventually concede defeat. But our tenacious crow has a better idea. Why scavenge when he knows of a permanent source of food? So he redirects the group to Beijing Zoo. The zoo is a microcosm of the world, with numerous habitats and a variety of the Earth's ecosystems. The crows are spoilt for choice with where to land. Their arrival coincides perfectly with feeding time, where they get to sample various cuisines. Sneaking into an unattended trough, the group enjoy the African grains in the zebra's feed. Until they're welcome no more. And move on to the mites and bugs, living on the deer's antlers. Much to the host's annoyance. An hour before the sun sets, as the temperature begins to drop, our crows head back to the heart of the city, where it's warmest. They are at their noisiest now, circling the skies and regrouping with their flock. Owls wake up just as these crows are heading to their roosts. While our crow and his fellows are flourishing and adapting well to life in the city, their main predator, the long-eared owl, is not faring so well. With diminishing woodland, their natural habitat, owls have ventured into Beijing. These nocturnal creatures are attracted to the food chain in the city. There's always something to eat here. But once here, they're experiencing a degree of culture shock. In such a dynamic city, it's difficult to find a quiet spot to sleep by day. And neon streetlights make stealth-like hunting difficult. The urban owl, shy and reserved, is seeking help from the city's people. As creators of cityscapes and host to its wildlife, people have a responsibility to protect these unlikely inhabitants. Here at the Raptor Centre in Beijing, they monitor the city's wild owls, kestrels and buzzards, bringing in any that need a little help in adapting to their unnatural surroundings. This owl was found with broken wing feathers. An owl's wing feathers are uniquely designed. Serrated like a comb to break down turbulence, their flight is entirely silent. And this is how, by stealth, they sneak up and capture prey. A kestrel is also brought in. They're sharpening his beak. His beak is short, curved, downward-facing and hooked at the end, specifically for gripping and tearing prey. In the wild, birds of prey like this owl sharpen their beaks through crunching the bones of the moles and voles that are their chief food. But in the city, they've been found eating soft, filleted leftovers with no beneficial effect on their beaks, which means they can get overgrown. After several weeks of rehabilitation, this owl is finally due for release. The team drive to the countryside 10 kilometers outside of the city.
后头就是山，前面就开矿，我觉得就挺好，就不给它放地上。
This is the owl's natural environment. Tonight, the owl will try his luck, once more hunting in the wild. But hopefully he won't find himself drawn back to the bright lights of the city, scavenging for easy food. Nanjing, on the eastern side of China, 200 kilometers northwest of Shanghai. Along the mighty Yangtze River, once China's ancient capital. Throughout their history, the people of Nanjing have paid respect to the environment and integrated it within their city. And nowhere in Nanjing is nature more cherished than on Purple Mountain. It's thick with trees and home to over 600 plant species. One creature found deep in the forest on Purple Mountain is unable to tolerate any man-made light, needing total darkness for a nightly spectacle on which the survival of its species depends. Dusk is approaching, and people are flocking to Purple Mountain to behold an awesome sight. Fireflies. Winged beetles, sending out messages of love. Fireflies depend on their own light to reproduce. They emit the light from their abdomen, created through a chemical reaction inside their bodies. And reproduction is their sole purpose in life, living only long enough to mate and lay larvae. They have a variety of ways to communicate with mates in courtship. Steady glows, flashing. To the naked eye, the difference between a male and female firefly's light is indistinguishable. But the fireflies are familiar with every subtle difference in the tone, length, rhythm of the streak of light. Male fireflies light up to signal their desire for mates, and willing females, fluent in this coded language, respond to the males with flashes of their own. It seems that female fireflies like a male with a more intense light, and one that flashes faster. But some experts believe that cunning male fireflies can imitate the flashing response of a disinterested female firefly, that way reducing competition. Around the world, firefly numbers are decreasing as cities encroach on forests. And light pollution reduces the firefly's ability and will to flare up as frequently, which reduces their chance of reproducing. But here in Nanjing, the population is thriving. Thanks to respect and positive coexistence. At night, Purple Mountain is pitch black, with only minimal lighting guiding tourists up the slopes. Purple Mountain is a piece of wildness Nanjing City has preserved for itself. With a rich history in the arts, the integration of nature within Nanjing serves as a reminder of a time when Chinese poets and artists lived in total harmony with wildlife and drew inspiration from the natural world. It's a permanent reminder of the exquisite beauty and wonder of nature that can still be ours to appreciate in these modern times, even as cities expand. And now other cities are also following Nanjing's lead. Chongqing is southwest China's largest city, embedded in the green rolling hills along the Yangtze River. Efforts to protect the extraordinary ficus virens tree from damage caused by construction are more than simply a green initiative. These bizarre but cherished trees in Chongqing are an integral part of the city's history, and now too of its very structural foundations. Here, nature and the city are totally inseparable. This fig tree's roots are stubbornly attached to the city walls, and they run 20 meters below the city. If this tree were to die, removing it would bring down parts of the city. Built on barren limestone karst terrain, the tree's roots explore every method possible to absorb the moisture they need for survival. Their entangled, interwoven roots squeeze desperately into tiny rock cracks, while the external roots absorb moisture directly from the air, like a sponge. The fact that the trees can thrive under these unusual conditions and grow so tall, towering 20 meters above the street to monopolize this limited light, is testament to how tenacious and resourceful living things can be. The city, built by humans, for humans, but now home to creatures of all kinds. From tiny insects to our close monkey cousins. The city is a shared space where all life must find a way to survive and prosper. Every day in our cities, we see evidence of nature's vitality and its ingenuity, where creatures, domesticated and wild, live side by side with us. As neighbours in this complex and interconnected world, we influence each other in ways we cannot predict. In the vibrant concrete habitat that is the modern city, many people feel they have a duty to the creatures that they live alongside, offering a helping hand in unfamiliar environments and giving others the space they need to thrive. Everywhere in the modern city, people, entranced by nature's brilliant diversity, are drawn to protect and care for all the creatures of the wild.